Jesus' arrest and trial. Jesus and his closest disciples went to a garden called Gethsemane. Jesus told his disciples to wait whilst he prayed. Jesus prayed and asked God to help him do the right thing. He went back to his disciples to find them sleeping. Jesus told them to wake up and went away and prayed twice more. Each time he came back to find his disciples asleep. The last time Jesus came back to find a crowd of people, Judas had arrived with soldiers armed with blazing torches, lanterns, and weapons. Jesus knew what was going to happen to him, so he stepped forward to speak to the crowd. "Who are you looking for?" he asked. "Jesus," they replied. "I am he," Jesus said. Judas came forward and kissed Jesus on the cheek, which was a prearranged signal to show the men who to arrest. The crowd of men arrested Jesus and started to take him away. Peter could not believe they were going to arrest Jesus. Jesus had never done anything wrong. Peter pulled out a sword and tried to protect Jesus. He cut off the ear of one of the crowd. Jesus told Peter to not fight. Jesus turned and put his hand on the man's ear, and it was healed. Jesus did not fight the men, but calmly went with them. All the disciples were left feeling very frightened. They all ran away so they would not be arrested. Jesus' friends left them just as Jesus said they would. The man led Jesus to the man in charge of the religious leaders, where the other leaders had gathered inside. They were trying to find witnesses who would lie about Jesus. The leader stood up and said to Jesus, "Well, aren't you going to answer these charges?" But Jesus remained silent. Then they said to him, "I demand you to tell us whether you are the promised king, the Son of God." Jesus replied, "Yes, it is as you say." Then the man in charge of the religious leaders was horrified, tore his clothes in anger, and shouted, "Why do we need other witnesses? You have heard him dishonor God with his words." Then they began to spit in Jesus' face and beat him with their fists. Early in the morning, the religious leaders met again to discuss how to persuade the government to sentence Jesus to death. Then they bound him and took him to the governor, where they said that Jesus was claiming to be a king. The governor asked Jesus, "Are you the king of these people?" Jesus answered, "My kingdom is not from here." The governor said, "So you are a king?" Jesus responded, You say correctly that I am a king. Actually, I was born and came into the world to show everyone the truth. All who love the truth recognize what I say is true." "What is the truth?" the governor asked, and then he left Jesus. The governor had Jesus flogged with a lead-tipped whip. The soldiers wove a crown of thorns and put it on his head. Then they put a purple robe on him. "Hail, O king!" They made fun of him as they slapped him across the face. The governor told the people, "Understand clearly that I do not find him guilty." And he had Jesus led out in front of the people. But the people insisted that Jesus be executed. So the governor spoke to Jesus again. "You need to answer these charges against you. Don't you realize that I have the power to release or execute you?" And Jesus said, "You would have no power over me at all unless it was given to you by God himself." The governor went back to the people to try to convince them that he should release Jesus. But they were insistent. "Execute him! Execute him!" they shouted. Finally, because the governor was afraid of the people, he turned Jesus over them to be executed.